So hi, everybody. My name is Wanda. I am the marketing manager here at P18. This is, we're calling for Generation 9, but we've called 3 generations of P18. So this is like my 12th call for applications here at Parallel 18. I hope I have this pitch nailed down so you guys would have very direct questions and not something that I left behind, but don't be shy on asking anything that comes to mind. There are no stupid questions, and actually things that I might have overlooked and you guys have as questions is super good for us to improve our pitch the best we can. So let's just dig in. So what is Parallel 18? Parallel 18 is a top-level performance-driven international startup program with a social mission. We offer entrepreneurs from all over the world access to high-quality business training, funding, and networks to help them scale globally. And as a Puerto Rico-based organization, we're working to position Puerto Rico as a unique hub for innovative businesses and technology. Our program is part of an NGO here in the island called the Puerto Rico Science, Technology, and Research Trust. And this organization is a private nonprofit created to maximize the island's participation and creation of jobs in the global knowledge economy. It does so by promoting investment and financing of science and technology research and development. The organization manages and hosts over a dozen initiatives that range from grants and technical support to meetups and educational resources for researchers, entrepreneurs, farmers, investors, and other groups. And this is part of the things you have access to once you participate in P18. So just for information purposes, Parallel 18 has 2 main programs. Pre-18, which is only for Puerto Rican startups who are close to launching their innovative businesses or have recently launched. That is not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about P18, which is open to founders from all over the world and target startups already in the market with traction and ready to scale to new markets. These programs are usually hosted in our co-working space here in San Juan. And this usually is free of charge, of course, because you're part of the cohort. I'm going to talk a little bit of how are we going to run for this generation in terms of the physical space and coming to Puerto Rico later on the presentation. So don't worry, we're going to get through all that. So what exactly is P18? P18 is an acceleration program that welcomes companies from around the world to help them scale to global markets. Our team works super hard to provide high quality business education, develop business connections, and create investment opportunities for all of our startups. So what actually we give startups? So we start by giving them money. That's super important to be alive and to start growing. It's an equity-free grant of $40,000. This means that we ask for no participation in the company with this grant. We also have a curated network of active investors that are part of our community. And we also put those to the service of our startups when they are ready or are thinking of raising capital. We offer them connections to multinationals here in the island, a bunch of companies that are mainly B2E focused, but still work with B2Cs to provide certain services. And we connect them through a program we have that's very focused on business development and innovation in the island and to help the startups actually get business here. Of course, we have amazing mentors that we curate for each cohort. We have had some that have been with us like for 5 years because they're the best in the business. And we also have a very hands-on team that's here to help you throughout the way. In addition, one of our team members, I think she's around here in this webinar, she works with everything that has to do with getting you tech perks for the services you need so you can save a little money there. And there's also a follow-on matching fund of up to $75,000. And I will get to what the requirements for that are because it's different from what we ask for the grant. So what do we give startups? We give them a community beyond borders and cohorts. This means that we're not just now limited to a physical space. We can create community from anywhere, and that does not necessarily mean that the community will be just created within your cohort. We have been working super hard to increase and to have more impact with our alumni program, so you will also have access to those contacts. The chance to scale globally, of course, because from the island, Puerto Rico is a US territory, so you'll be able from here, if you come from Latin America, to expand to maybe markets in the United States. And if you come from the United States, we have been working a long time with organizations from Latin America, and that will help you also grow from here down, or right or left. I'm not really good with geography. And we also give you access to our entrepreneurial community. And that is not only the cohort and the entrepreneurs that are part of P18, we're also talking about the other entrepreneurial organizations in the island that have a great focus on helping anyone grow. So what do we ask from the startups that participate in the program? First, one of the requirements is that they have to be innovative, they have to be early stage, and they have to have 3 years of operations or less. They need to have traction. And with this, we mean startups that already have sales or users or partnerships that are willing to pay for their product. This does not mean that you need to check all 3. Maybe you have a lot of users and you're not really sure how to monetize them yet, but they are active daily users, and it's a great community that really enjoys what you have to offer, and they're willing to pay for it. Or maybe you are selling a product and you have, I don't know, $3,000, $5,000 of sales a month, and that counts as traction. Or maybe you don't have really users right now or sales, but you have just signed a big partnership with someone that could really make a difference within your industry and business. And that also counts as traction. And we're going to discuss this on how to present this in the application a little bit further down this presentation. Participate in our blended format, because I know this is the question that everyone has for any accelerator that used to be super in person before the pandemic. We are going to host a blended / hybrid cohort. It's what we're planning. I mean, this group starts in August. So it's really hard to foresee how the COVID pandemic will unfold here in the island, in the US, or even in the countries you guys are from. So what we're thinking is that we are going to have this in a hybrid format, which means that you will have to be in Puerto Rico for certain things at certain times. But most of the program will be run in terms of mentorship, in terms of meetings and that sort of thing, will probably run virtually. As time goes on and we actually select the startups that will participate in this cohort, and that will happen around early July, then we'll start the conversation about what's going on and how are we going to proceed. But I do want to let you guys know that it's super important that if you don't have your visa to come to the United States yet, you have to start like handling those you have to make the arrangements and start like talking to the necessary authorities to make that happen. Because remember, Puerto Rico is a United States territory, so you need a visa to come into the island. And also it's super important that when the program starts, your country is allowed to come into the US, of course, taking into consideration everything that has to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. But that we will go on that as we progress on the following months and see how it goes. Scalability, and this means companies that have a product that can easily adapt to other markets. So this is why we don't work with restaurants, we don't work with stores, or anything that's like constricted to a physical space, or that is really harder to get to scale, like to move from one market to the other. So that's super important. And also having a plan for your performance in Puerto Rico. And this includes hiring, acquiring customers, among other things that we are going to help you guys get. But it is very important, and we will see this in the application, that you start doing your homework, start researching online about what industries there are in Puerto Rico. Like, we're big on pharma, we're big on, of course, tourism. There's a bunch of things that have to do with communications, a lot of things that have to do with manufacturing. You can go probably to the website of the Department of Economic Development and find a bunch of information there. You can also go to investpr.com. I think that's the website. And they have a lot of other information about like how the island works and what businesses are around. So you can start like doing that research and making sure that there is a fit for your startup here, aside from what we have on the website. So how does we usually work? We usually call for applications once a year, and we select up to 40 companies per cohort. And the money that I talked to you before, like the 40K equity free grant, we divide this into 2 halves. So we give 20,000 when the startups start in the program. In that moment, you will have meetings with our operations team, and you with them will start setting up the goals that you will hit during the 20 weeks that you will be participating in P18. And those goals and how you work towards them are measured weekly in what we call KPI meetings, and that's performed in corillos or groups of startups that are similar in industry or needs, for example. And then around week 8, the team will have an assessment and see which companies are actually hitting the marks and getting to those goals, and which are maybe having a little trouble and might need an extra push, and give them maybe short-term goals for 2 weeks to make sure that they are like on top of things and making sure there are some things that can happen. If you get those goals in those short-term goals in 2 weeks, then amazing, you're going to get the rest of the grant. If you were working perfectly and everything is going great, you'll get the grant without going to have to this period of maybe 2 weeks to see what happens. And if you're not complying and something happens along the way with the 2 weeks that we gave you to do X or Y stuff, then that might mean that you might not be able to complete the program. We are not asking for any equity on your company, but we do ask for a bunch of hard work. So if you checked all the boxes and you guys are ready to get the other half of the money after midpoint evaluation, and during that evaluation, if you're in good standing, we just want to know how we can keep supporting you to get your goals going. And if you're having a little bit trouble, then how can we support you to make everything happen? So you get the rest of the money, and then you're thinking, well, I'm fine, I don't have anything else to do. Wrong. If you want to have access to our pool of investors and present in demo day, you have to keep working as hard as you were before the midpoint evaluation. You just have to end the 10 next weeks with a blast. Just working hard and hustle. And I know I don't really need to say this, because if you are entrepreneurs and you have your startups, you know everything about hustling. So who participates? Our program is industry agnostic. So basically anything that has some innovation and can scale and has traction will be is eligible for the program. And maybe interesting fact is that actually during our 5 years in operations, we've had in 8 cohorts, we've had 66% of our startups were B2B and 34 were B2C. So this does not mean we prefer B2B to B2C. I mean, there are a lot of ways to make B2C have business partnerships or interactions with big companies and turn them into a B2C, B2B. So you don't really need to worry. What you need to know is that if you comply with the basic requirements, doesn't matter your industry, you are eligible. So aside from the money, aside from the connections, aside from the investment, there's a bunch of things that we do for you guys or for startups that participate within our program. And we divide that into some sub-programs that are super important. P18 Connect and P18 Ventures, and I'm going to go more into detail into those, but I'm going to go quickly over our intern and fellow and give back programs. Our intern program is something we have. It's one of the things that we really like at P18, like giving students the opportunity to get in contact with innovation, a different way of thinking, a different way of working that in traditional corporations. So each time there is a job fair at a college here in the island, or we have maybe a new cohort of startups that are coming into the program, we start making a call for students and they get into this database. And then participants in the program can go through this database and actually look for interns that are more aligned to what they're looking for. Maybe you're looking for someone for content or marketing or programming, design, UX, UI, sales, whatever. The pool is usually like pretty big, and then you guys can get in contact directly with the students and decide how you're gonna go through that. Fellow 18, it's more like our freelancers base. This means that we just curate some freelancers in several industries or several segments that usually our startups need. And then they have direct connection to you. I mean, if you need a translator, an editor, a designer, branding, websites, I think we have even lawyers in our fellow pool. We will put them at your I don't want to say disposal because it sounds like bad, but we're gonna put them like here. This is what they do. We do, Laura. Thank you. Laura Delgado, our startup executive, she's right here and she handles the intern fellow program. And we do have lawyers within our fellows. Okay. Thank you for that, Laura. Um, these fellows, I mean, you will arrange the fee and everything with them. They have gone through a bit of evaluation with us and they have worked with other cohorts. And so that's how we know they know how to work with startups and we just keep recommending them. And our Give Back program, that's the program in which we love to give back to the community. We think entrepreneurship is a way of thinking that people need to understand and people need to think of it as an option aside from just working from a 9 to 5 job. So through our Give Back program, our entrepreneurs go and participate in talks, mentor students, other fellow entrepreneurs, participate in startup weekends and other events in the community that are actually oriented to keep promoting this change in mindset from thinking of a 9 to 5 to thinking that you can actually use your skills and your knowledge to become an entrepreneur. So let's deep down, let's go more into P18 Connect and P18 Ventures. P18 Connect is our business development program. This is the corporate innovation program that we have that is focused on helping startups grow on the island while promoting that Puerto Rico's biggest industries become more competitive by integrating the latest innovations. So how does this work? What we usually do, our business development team, the amazing Christina and Silmari, when we select a cohort, they go over the industries and the sort of companies that we have in that cohort, and they start matching. Okay, well, this company will go good with this corporate partner, this one with this one, and once they're in, the team starts creating and asking meetings with this corporate partners. And then we facilitate that first introduction. It's like, instead of you sending emails, just calling on the phone, cold calling to see like who's there, who can actually help you, our team will just create these group meetings in which you have that first interaction with a corporate to present your startup. And of course, it's always validated with the reputation of the program and that the program is really betting on the startups. These are some of the partners that are within our corporate partners in P18 Connect. As you can see, there are some international companies like Merck, for example, Puma Energy, UPS, Avi, and there are some interesting companies from the island, GFR Media, which is the top media company in Puerto Rico, Liberty, who is like the biggest company in telecommunications in the island, I believe. Idonet, they provide our internet. It's amazing. There's a bunch of other things here. And if there's a corporate partner that we don't have that you might be interested in meeting, the team also goes and works hard to get them into our pool of partners. So this is what we do in the business development area. And in terms of P18 Ventures, this is our program that's more oriented to helping you guys get Silmari's here as well. There you go. Silmari from P18 Connect, our business development program. Thank you guys for being here. I feel so supported by the team. Okay. So what is P18 Ventures? And this P18 Ventures is a sub-program that's focused on helping our startups create a strong investment strategy while connecting them with a curated network of investors. Through the Puerto Rico Science, Technology, and Research Trust, which is our parent organization that I talked about a little earlier on the presentation, P18 Ventures invest in startups via the matching fund. And we're going to go to that. But I wanted to let you guys know that our curriculum in P18 is basically divided in sort of 2 fronts. Like the first part is really oriented into getting storytelling, marketing, and product development set, or help you improve the efforts you're doing on that. And the second half is super oriented to getting the structure, building the strategy to start going out and look for that investment that is crucial for all startups to grow. So what is the matching fund? The matching fund is a follow matching fund designed to co-invest in promising startups fresh from P18. And with this fund, the Puerto Rico Science, Technology, and Research Trust matches private capital raised by entrepreneurs up to $75,000 in exchange for stocks or convertible notes. It's called matching fund because we don't only match sometimes the amount of the investment. The terms we ask you guys, the terms in which we do our investment are the same terms in which your other investor does the investment. So it's like the whole thing. So how does this work? Let's say we connect you to investors in the island and you raise $20,000 here in the island. well, then the match goes one-on-one. Like if you're asking for us to give you 20,000, then if you raise that money in Puerto Rico from Puerto Rican private investors, then we're gonna match it one-on-one. And if that money that you're raising is from investors outside Puerto Rico, then the match goes 1.5 to 1. If I'm not mistaken, it's you raise 20, we give you 10. So that is all discussed thoroughly when we have our orientation week and when we go through the second half of the program orientation. So you guys can actually understand in depth how this works. But what we want to let you guys know here is that when you're finished the program, we are very focused on keeping those companies alive, healthy, and growing. And this is why we have this sort of tools to make it work. So if you're thinking, how does it work? Like how many people they've invested in? Well, there you go. So we've done 24 investments up to Gen 7, and we're now calling for Gen 9. We have invested a total of 1.6 million in our startups. 33% of those investments have been done in female-led companies. And as of our 4th year impact report that we published back in December, 88% of the companies that received the matching fund are still in operations. So this is a team. So you guys can put faces to what we've been talking about. Eduardo Padial is our operations director. You see me here, the marketing manager. Cristina Tamayo is our business development manager. She's the one with Silmari Diaz, our associate that handles everything that has to do with helping you get connections in business development. Menchu Agüeros, she's our outreach manager. She handles everything that has to do with PR, press, crisis management, everything that you guys think that at some point might not be very crucial, but at some point in your company will be. That's some of the things that she does. Laura Delgado is our startup executive. She handles everything that has to do with perks, talent program, and getting you connected to universities. Samuel is our lead creative designer. He makes everything pretty that you see on our social media, on our website, on this presentation. And I already talked to you about Silmari when I mentioned Christina. And Johan Padilla, he's our operations manager. He is in charge of creating the curriculum and the acceleration experience that you guys will enjoy if you get accepted into the program. So let's go to the application. So how does the selection process work? First of all, you start filling up your application in Unodal. If you go to parallel18.com, there's a button right there in the fuchsia bar that says, if you want to apply here. So you go there and that'll take you to the platform. After we close applications on May 10th, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. ASAT UTC -4, that's like the last minute you have to submit your application. I'm there until like around past midnight, just checking out if everything is going properly, if there were some tech issues or not. So make sure that you submit your application in or before 11:59 p.m. AST UTC -4 on May 10th. Because if you cry wolf the next day saying that there were technical issues, and I know there weren't because I was there, we're gonna have a little trouble. So make sure that you submit at the due date. After that's done and closed, our team, the P18 team, does an internal screening to figure out exactly who are the people who meet the basic requirements. And that's what we discussed a little bit earlier, and we're going to go into depth a little bit further down this presentation. It's having traction, innovation, be able to scale, and having a plan for the island. Our application process started this Monday, April 5th, and closes on May 10th. So that's 5 whole weeks you guys have to complete your applications. After that internal screening is done, the companies that did not fit that basic requirements to be part of the program will get a notification, and they'll be able to ask for feedback later on. Those who pass, then okay, you meet the basic criteria, then we're going to send you to our pool of judges. And we usually recruit more than 100 international judges, and we give them some standards in which they have to base their evaluation on. And I'm going to talk to you, maybe I think it's the next slide. And they just give points according to the things that we're asking them to evaluate. And then those points are added, and we create a ranking, sort of like grades in school, to make sure which are the companies that have like the top grades. Usually we just cut at 80, And those 80 companies that become a finalist then get sent to a selection committee that the team puts together. It includes people in Puerto Rico that are investors, that are mentors, have been mentors in the program, alumni, people who have been in startups before, mentors, investors, alumni, people who have been in startups, like experts on the topic. And they actually go through every of the 80 applications, and then they discuss and they have to vote in to make sure like all the companies that get in are actually super fit for the program. And that means we select up to 40 companies per cohort. And then you guys will be notified as what happened. In terms of interviews, because we always have this question, we usually don't conduct interviews like before the selection committee, but maybe that's something that could happen if we have specific questions that we feel should be addressed before the selection committee see the applications. And there might be a second round of small interviews after the selection committee, because maybe the committee has specific questions that we didn't think of when evaluating the startups. What does this mean? That you need to be super on top of your email and be certain that you put the email that you usually check to make sure that you got the information. And then you have to be super attentive to our social media, because when we send these emails, since we know some email clients filter some senders, we put on social media, we send important information for applicants. So make sure that you guys are just tuning into all of our social media and your emails to see that if you got an invitation to participate in the program, or maybe an invitation for an interview, or maybe you should ask for feedback because your startup did not go through the other parts of the application process. So what's the selection criteria? Product or service, this means what is the product, how innovative it is, what are you offering, counts for 20%. Marketing and positioning. Is this the right market? Is this market overcrowded, overserved? Is this market a niche, but this is a niche that no one's tending to? So we need to understand exactly how much have you studied this. Team composition and experience. This means that the team must have the perfect qualifications to make this startup happen. I always like to say, like, you can't have a bakery if you don't have a baker. So, I mean, if you're a tech-based startup, you need to have technical people in your team. If you're focused, if you're e-commerce and you're focused on selling, you need to have an e-commerce expert within your team. So those are the things we take into consideration when we're thinking about the team composition and experience. Traction. This means, as I told you, having users who are willing to pay, or people who actually pay, or partnerships that can make a really big difference once they come into full fruition. And your link with Puerto Rico, as I told you before, this means that you have to do your homework. The internet is amazing, people. So go do your research. Look for your industry in the island, like which companies are there that represented? What opportunities do you think that might happen for you here? Or maybe the things that you want are, you want to hire talent. You want to have super impact on the economic development on the island. Maybe you are a Puerto Rican who live in the States and want to come back to promote great job creation to make people stay. Those are the sort of things we need you to look for, understand, analyze, and then just develop in your writing, in your application, to make sure that you are thinking of how the island will help you out, because it's one of the important requirements of the program. So let's go into the application. I actually filled this application thinking about the things that will not get filtered on the first round. Don't copy my application. It's just an invented thing that I made out. I just wanted to let you guys know the sort of things we might be looking for, and how maybe you can think around how to present your startup in the application. So of course, you start with your startup page. And then you give us a high level pitch that will be 7 words or less. This means my startup does this. And we don't want pretty stuff. We don't want like super marketing speak lines. We just want you to want to understand exactly what you do in 7 simple words. Then you're gonna select your industry. As you can see, this is a drop-down menu. I don't know if let me use the pointer. I think, let me find the pointer. I like this one. Okay. Oh, I can't do it because it doesn't have permission. Okay. But anyway, this is a drop down menu. So you guys will just see a bunch of industries there. If it's not listed, then you guys put other, and that's it. So which type of product are you building? Here you can select multiple options, and that's fine. Which fields or tags are your startup involved in? There's a list here that you can start filling up and searching, but if it's not listed, then you can just place it in the other category. Where your startup has headquarters on, so maybe your HQs are in Argentina or in Puerto Rico or in Peru, just put it there. In this example, I committed the mistake of not putting on a website, but you should have your website and put it here. And then the link for your pitch video. We're gonna stop here a little bit. So this video, you have to upload on Vimeo or YouTube without passwords. So what does this mean? Do not reveal any intellectual property, something that is private, maybe your secret sauce. This is not something you will reveal on this video because this video is 100% public. What we want to see here is, why are you the perfect team to lead this project? What problem are you solving? And how will Parallel 18 impact your startup? Simple. Those 3 questions, answer them, and that's more than enough. 3 minutes or less, your videos, please. And one important thing is that this is the only moment that the P18 team and the judges will put a face to the startup and a voice. So make sure that we can see your face clearly and that we can hear you well. If you have team members that are located in different areas of the world, then just write a little script, ask them to record each other in different points and just edit it all together. If you have a team, we would prefer to see the whole team. So there are ways to work around and on not being on the same place. So just make sure that everyone knows what they're saying and that everyone looks, we can see everyone clearly and we can hear everyone clearly. However, even if the video is public, let me assure you that the application is 100% confidential and safe. So in the application, just feel free to be super honest about everything we're asking. If you have a pitch deck or a supporting document that you want to upload, you can do it right here. It's very important to highlight that those supporting documents do not substitute the things that have to be in the application. So don't just turn in a poorly completed application because you uploaded several documents, because that's not how it works. These are support documents. So it's just to support the things that you're claiming within your application. They do not replace the importance of having a well-written application. So if your company is incorporated in the United States, if it's not, it's fine. It will not affect you negatively. We just want to know exactly what we're getting within the cohort, right? Then you guys are going to let us know which milestone have you reached today. And you can select several here. Again, this is more an assessment to understand exactly where you guys are at. Then you're going to tell us what phase of development is your startup in. And this is also a drop-down menu. So you're going to select the ones you're in. Then you're going to talk about how many people are working full-time on this startup. And this means employees or partners that work no less than 35, 40 hours a week in the company. So if your team is made of freelancers that have several projects, maybe that's not something you will put in here. But if you have maybe you're a founder and maybe you have 3 people working a lot of hours within the team, then that's something you put up there. How long have you been working full-time on this startup? And this means like maybe you had this idea 7 years ago, but you really did not start thinking about this or selling it maybe until 6 months ago. Well, your time on working full-time and being operational and having sales starts from the moment you start selling, not when you thought this when you were in college 10 years ago. Then you're going to tell us, why are you and your team members the perfect team to lead this startup? In my fake application, I'm selling a product that's focused on helping companies understand where there is unconscious bias and giving them trainings on how to do that, but also like being super purposeful about it and making sure that the implementation goes well. So when I think about the team that should be perfect for this, it's someone who has managed employees before and someone that has experience in the human resources area. And that is why in my fake application, this is the example I'm giving. That I have people who have managed employees in culture, but also I have people who have a lot of knowledge in managing human resources. So then we're going to ask you if you have raised any capital. This is also a drop-down menu. So if you haven't, it's fine. It will not count against you in any way. Again, we just want to know more about where your startup is at. If you have raised some capital, then this drop-down menu will show you several ranges in which you will just select the one you're in if you have raised any capital. And then you're gonna say, who are your investors? Then you're gonna tell us in which countries do your startup have paid clients. And if it's just one country, that's fine. But if it's several, just put them there. Then you're gonna talk a little bit about what is the problem you are solving. So in my case, I'm talking about that diversity and inclusion have become buzzwords in many organizations, but they fail in the implementation of strategies to make sure their hiring policies and workplace are more inclusive. So this is in part because we all have unconscious biases and regular training fails to make us self-aware. And this platform will use several approaches to detect that bias and offer personalized education for managers and organizations. So this is a problem I'm solving in my fake application. So this is some of the things that you might think that you want to put there. What is exactly your problem was designed to do? And then you're going to describe your business. In the case of my imaginary startup, building a SaaS platform that will offer assessment tests, videos, personalized training, and a bunch of other stuff. So that's where you're going to go there. You're going to go into depth describing your business, taking into account that you have a limit of words per answer. Then you're going to tell us who are you selling your product or service to. So, and this means who are the first customers? Do you already have traction? Is anyone using your service and has give you feedback about it, like what's important to them or who are they? And also, what's the estimated size of your target market? Because we want to know, like, it might be small in certain areas, but big in others. We want to understand just how big the opportunity is. Then tell us a little bit about your solution. Tell us how is it innovative and scalable? So how is it different? What did you put into it that's different from other solutions? How can it grow? Where do you think are the perfect places to go and to grow? And maybe you can go a little bit into the business model if there's time. If not, we're going to ask about it a little bit further down the application. Then if you have intellectual property within your startup, let's say you develop an algorithm specifically just for this startup, then you're going to put it here. And then you are going to tell us about your competitors. We know like almost everything is invented, so there is competition for everything. The important thing here is we don't want you to sell us your competition or describe your competition in depth. We just want you to tell us how are you different from them and what is your competitive advantage. Let's say you are in the market and there's like 3 big competitors, but you are serving a specific niche of that target market, which is still huge. And they're not taking them into consideration, and you're thinking about them and your solution is built up for them. Well, then that's how you are different from your competition. Again, that is what we want to see. We don't want to see descriptions of the competition. We want to see how are you different. Then we're going to talk about traction. And this section just wants to understand the metrics you monitor to assess how your company is growing or has grown in the past. So how does your startup make money? That's one of the first questions. So then you're going to talk about your revenue model. Is this a subscription-based model, premium, direct sales? What are the revenue streams? What are your costs? What is your profit forecast? What are your upcoming capital needs, if any? The important thing here is that you need to make a difference between what's actual traction, I mean, what's going on today, and what are forecasts. So don't mix them up together. Just be super specific about what's one and what's the other. Then we're going to start asking you about your traction. And if you measure your traction in active users or customers, then you're going to tell us how much. If that's not how you measure it, it's fine, just put 0. If you are measuring, maybe you have a freemium model, you offer a free version of your stuff, and then you're going to charge, then let us know how many of those customers are actually paying customers. If that's not how you measure your traction, then just put 0. We do want to know what is your monthly sales average of the past 3 months. And if for some reason that is a number that you don't feel comfortable because it's not super big or whatever, what you need to do is in the next questions, you can start telling us a little bit more about in the next questions and also in previous questions. Just make sure that we know if there has been some, maybe you had to cease operations for a while where you were figuring out exactly what to do after the pandemic or doing X or Y change, then make sure that that's specified at some point in the application. So then you're going to tell us if you have customers in paying customers in several countries, if you have any signed partnerships. If you have partnerships signed, then let us know who are they with, like what are the details. Give us a little bit of details on how those partnerships actually impact your business in a positive way. And then let us know about your traction metrics. And this means to what you use to measure your company's success today. So let's say that today you are measuring it in sales. So that means our traction metric is sales. We have been selling X amount per month, and our goal is to increase by X% each month, for example, or to end the year in X amount. Let's say you're measuring your success into conversions, maybe those leads that turn into just a simple lead to a marketing qualified lead. Then what is the percentage that you are considering as a good conversion rate? Maybe you just want to know how many people downloaded your application if you have an app. Maybe that's your KPI. Well, they just put it there. The important thing is that it's something or some things that will let us know exactly how do you know when things are going wrong and you need to go back and fix, okay? And then your startup and us. So let us know how will Parallel 18 is important in your overall business strategy. And you can see in my example that I see that you have a strong network of partners, and I'm into the human resources thing. So you might give me connections to companies that might have the need for what I'm serving. Well, this is something you can put up in here. So it's super important that you research the program and you research the island in order to answer these questions. If you are a startup from Puerto Rico, then start thinking about what is it that P18 has for you that you think you will benefit from. Then we're going to go to describing how being located in Puerto Rico will be important to your overall business strategy. And this is, again, I know I have said this like 3 or 4 times, but I really, really, really want to highlight this. One, because it's always something that people ask. And when I put up today the LinkedIn poll, a lot of you said that you wanted to know more about what is it the plan for Puerto Rico. So this is why I'm being like super repetitive on the importance on doing your homework. Go research. Go to a local newspaper to see how that goes. Go to the business section. Go to Invest Puerto Rico. Go to even the Puerto Rico Science, Technology, and Research Trust. Learn about what they do. Go to the webpage of the Department of Economic Development in the island. There's a bunch of resources online that you can actually go to and look for the sort of industries that we have and the sort of companies and how the economic development works in the island. So you are sure that what you're thinking goes. Of course, we don't expect you to be experts in how to do business in the island if you are not from here. There might be opportunities and things that you will not see that when you start the program, if you're selected, the team will say, oh, maybe this will be a good fit for X, X, or Y. So don't think that if you can't find anything that fits, it doesn't work. Remember, it's not only like how are you going to make business here, but maybe you want to hire the talent. It's a strategic position for me to move from here to here once everyone can travel safely. Just like really think it through, because it's something like we really are insisted on when you guys come to the program. And if you are a startup from Puerto Rico, then how do you answer this question? Well, let's say maybe what you want here is just to make sure that you have a good impact, or maybe the industries that are here serve you well, or your solution is targeting first a local problem and then it will help you test here before moving to another market. So as a startup in Puerto Rico, you also need to think about how the program and Puerto Rico is good for your business. And then let us know about which aspects of your team and company operations do you need to prepare in order to be able to have a commercial presence in Puerto Rico and expand to a new market. So if you're not from the island, then let us know. Maybe visa, maybe COVID regulations, as I have in my example. Maybe you need to understand better how taxing and employment works. You can put whatever here that is relatable to this question, of course. And in terms of Puerto Rican founders, then let us know. Maybe we don't have contacts in Mexico, or we don't have contacts in Argentina or Peru, or we need contacts in Miami, even if you are from outside of the island. But specifically like this question for locals, it's more thinking about the next step of your startup when you decide you're ready for another market. So what stands in the way of that? And then again, then tell us know exactly which parts of your team and company operations would limit that. Let's say maybe we have a super small team and we can maybe cannot move fast to another market. Maybe we need to understand and hire more people in order to make sure that the operations in my main market are not disturbed and keep working properly while I open the other one. These are some of the things that you can answer up here. And then you're going to tell us how you learned about us. And then you are going to accept our terms and conditions that were not uploaded when I took the screenshot, but are now. Then you're going to invite your team members to fill their form. And it's very important that this happens through the Unoodle platform. They cannot send this on email or whatever. So make sure that after you put on their emails, you call, send them a WhatsApp, Slack, Teams, email, whatever it is they respond to, just do it. Because sometimes these emails just reach the junk mail and then they don't see them and then they don't fill them up in time. And then you will want to submit your application and the application will allow you, the system will allow you to submit, but then you will have to delete them. And it would be like, if you have a team, then it would be showing that that you do not have it. So make sure that they know when it's time, put it on their calendar. I don't know, call them for a meeting, make sure that everyone does it. And then if you're going to invite recommenders, then it's the same process. Just put up their emails. You can invite up to 3 and then call them, send them a WhatsApp message, Telegram, whatever they react to, and let them know that you need it. Send the calendar invite. I don't know, do something. But make sure that they submit it before you submit your application, because again, if you try to submit and this hasn't happened, it will ask you, hey, X recommender has not done his part. Are you sure you want to submit? And even though recommendations are not mandatory, they're sure nice to have. So make sure that if it's an important one, that the person knows that you're waiting for it. So a quick tips on the application. As you see, we have a limit of words per answer. So make sure to avoid using too many unnecessary adjectives. The best, the most innovative, la, 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 la. No, just go straight to the point. Again, your pitch video does not need to be professional. However, judges have to be able to see your faces and understand what you're saying. Remember to upload it to YouTube or Vimeo with no passwords so you don't reveal any confidential information. You can just find something to, like a phone holder or whatever, just like put your phone right here, record yourself. Phones have amazing cameras nowadays, so it will just look fine. Be super clear and very, very honest in your application. Everything there is confidential. So you can just put numbers, projections, or whatever. We just want to make sure that you can feel like you can be honest with us. Because if you're selected to the program based on a lie or misinformation, once we get to meet you, we're going to find out, and that's going to be really uncomfortable. So just don't lie, don't make up numbers, don't exaggerate things, be super clear and transparent, okay? Very important. Don't ignore your competitors. The judges might think that you really did not do your homework when exploring the market, so just put it out there. Never assume that the judges will take out their calculators on their phone and analyze projections, understand how you make money or whatever. Just be very specific, do the math for them. If you're saying, oh, we're gonna grow 10x in the next year, 10x from what? We're gonna grow from 5,000 to X amount, just be very specific. Again, the same with your startup metrics, you need to have traction. Explain why your team is the team to make this happen. Explain their expertises and backgrounds in their personal forms. And in the personal information section, we're aiming this time to get to know our applicants better and to help us improve our recruitment efforts in terms of attracting more diverse startups. So you're going to see there's a bunch of questions that if you have filled this application before that were not there before, there are several questions that are more oriented to learning about how diverse is the pool of applicants that we're getting, to see where do we have to adjust to get more diversity. And then always save it in another document. Just copy paste the answers in a Word document, or answer them in a Word document and then copy paste to the application. Technology sucks. Maybe your computer ran out of power and you lost everything. Just make sure that you just have it saved somewhere else. Remember to tell your team members and recommenders to check their junk mails to make sure that they have their form to fill their profiles. And always, I advise people to share their applications with someone who don't really know much about what you're doing or what your startup's all about. They do understand a little bit of business, but they can, when they read it, they can understand what you're trying to say, because sometimes when we explain things, we come from the place that we know and we understand what we're doing, and then we go into it and explain it as if people have the same understanding. So it's very important that you go and review it with someone else just to make sure that what you want to say is coming through. And again, recommenders are not required, but they're sure nice to have. And if you have ex-colleagues, customers, industry pros, or people that can actually, investors, for example, partners that can talk about you and your product, then ask them for a recommendation. So why us a part that we're great? I'm kidding, but we are. We've accelerated more than 200 companies from more than 10 countries, and those companies, our alumni, have gone up to raise more than $26 million in capital after they finished the program. So you guys have until May 10th, 2021 to submit your application. Remember, 11:59 AST UTC -4. So from today till then, you still have roughly, 5 weeks to make this happen.